behind you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Ladies' Corner. We are going to speak about food insecurity in Edmonton, and all of you have some connections with people who are struggling at this time. So I want to initially just introduce myself and each one of you who has joined us today. So, just give yourself a brief introduction. I'm Mary, and I'm going to ask you lots of questions, and I hope we'll get this ball rolling quickly. So I'm going to start with Kris. Can you please give us a quick introduction of what you do at Mustard Seed?
Yeah, I'm the director of programs at the Mustard Seed, which is kind of just an ambiguous title. So I oversee all our food service programs, our food depot, shelters, just any type of activity that is a frontline service sort of falls under what I do.
Perfect. So you're the head of making everybody run.
Yeah, kind of.
So we're going to go to Marjorie. I have actually met Marjorie at some point. I'd been to the food bank, I think, 2 years ago, and as part of Diversity Magazine's initiatives. But anyway, I just wanted to, kind of have an introduction from you. I know you've been there forever. So you can give us a quick introduction about, what the food bank does in Edmonton and how you've been involved.
Well, thank you, Mary, for coordinating this conversation tonight. And Kris and I were joking before we went online that we were both around for a long time, longer than we want to admit. And so I'm Marjorie Bencz. I'm Executive Director of Edmonton's Food Bank. And Edmonton's Food Bank is a central warehouse that collects and redistributes food to over 250 agencies, churches, schools, and food programs. So our goal is to support all the great work that's happening out there in the community and help other organizations with the food services. And we do provide some services directly to people in need, but really it is that partnership with those other groups that help us do our work.
Perfect. And you've been with the food bank for?
I've been executive director since 1989, and I started as a volunteer in 1987. So yeah, a long time. Kris and I have both been doing this work for a long time.
You can give us a lot of insight about how our community has grown and what has happened. So that's great. Thank you for that. And let me go to our pastor. How do you pronounce your name, Pastor?
Kolawole.
Kolawole.
Yeah, you got it.
Pastor Kolawole, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a pastor at Rhema Chapel. It's a Pentecostal church. I'm the coordinator of what we call Rhema Food Rescue Services. And I also coordinate the food bank. The church also has a food bank. And I'm also a member of the board of Rhema Multicultural Services. The Multicultural Center has been in existence for the past 13 years. But since last year, the food rescue services and the food center became very active because we noticed because of COVID, there were serious food challenges, food insecurity in the land. We noticed from our immediate community and people from all over the city. So we became very active.
I will ask you further questions later. So just give me your introduction and be as brief as you can because, we need to give everybody equal time. So thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Kris, I would like you to explain a little bit about what the Mustard Seed does with people who are struggling with food insecurity.
Okay, well, that's actually a fairly large question. We have a number of different initiatives. So previous to COVID, we served a meal downtown at our downtown location to anywhere from 200 to 500 people a night would come to eat. Obviously, when COVID hit and the full brunt of the Alberta Health Services protocols came into play, we had to shut that down. And so all of a sudden we had hundreds of people that relied on us nightly who didn't have anywhere to go to access food. So we started up a program called Dinner to Door that is operating right now. So we actually make the meals, we freeze the meals, and we have a slew of volunteers that go out and deliver to those who are living vulnerably. Obviously they're housed, but they would be the ones that live vulnerably and are in need of food. So I think they're delivering about 1,000 meals a week right now through that program.
Wow. Great.
So that's the main scope. The other one, which would be a partnership with Marjorie and her organization, is the Mustard Seed has a fairly large and active food depot that goes several days a week, and it's serving hundreds of people a week through that food bank. So those are two main ones. And then obviously we are operating in several shelters that provide meals and are open 24 hours a day and provide a breakfast, lunch, and dinner to those on the street.
That is awesome. So right now it's happening within the Shaw Conference Center, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, we have two shelters on the south of the river running. One is specifically for women, and the other one is out just off 99th Street and 75th Avenue in a warehouse that we rented for 6 months. And so it operates 24 hours a day and offers the meals and drop in. We're also heavily involved in the convention center, and that's a whole other level of service. And that's a partnership with Edmonton Convention Center is providing the food through that. I believe they're actually accessing some through the food bank to help provide the meals.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I was going to say there's about 1,000 meals a day being served out of the convention center right now.
Oh, wow. So that's over and above the other 1,000.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to go to Marjorie now. I just would like to know, like, over the so many years that you've been with the food bank, how has the need and for the food bank grown? And specifically for COVID, what are the statistics like?
Well, certainly our community has changed over the years, and certainly we've changed. We actually turned 40 years as an organization last Saturday. It was 40 years since we were incorporated as the Edmonton Gleaners Association. And so really, initially, we were a food recovery organization, and still the vast majority of our food is food that's gleaned from the food industry in some way or not another. We saw Alberta's been kind of struggling for the last couple of years prior to COVID. Our economy was struggling, unemployment was high, and so that created concerns. And COVID, of course, heightened awareness around food insecurity, and people who were food insecure were also maybe more concerned about it in the past, because there's so many things in our lives that we can't control because of COVID. Right or wrong, good or bad, and maybe it's a political thing to say, but certainly the federal government and provincial government to a degree try to help people who were food insecure by providing them some serve and other benefits to help them out.
I'm not really able to hear you very well because there's a lot of noise from the other mics. So all of you who are not speaking, please mute yourself.
Don't we love technology, Mary? It's part of our lives now. And certainly, like Kris indicated, we've had to make lots of changes as well to keep people safe. We rely heavily on volunteers to do our work, and so we were no longer able to have really large groups of volunteers coming in. Many of our regular volunteers really have stepped up for us. We've been a major player in distributing PPEs, helping distribute PPEs in hampers, but also to all the great partners out there that we're working with out there in the community. And so we've, like has been indicated, we had to change some of our programming too, and that we've added a program that helps deliver food hampers to people who are COVID positive or who are self-isolating, again, to keep people safe and in their own homes. So there's been a lot of moving parts, I think, for all of us as we've gone through this COVID experience. And as an organization, we rely heavily on the community for our volunteers and our food supplies and our donations of funds. And a lot of that always comes in through special events, whether it's a Heritage Festival or Candy Cane Lane, you name it, that's where we get our resources. And we have had to change what we're doing because of changes. We can't have the special events and the food drives and those types of things like we've had in the past.
So how do the numbers look right now, and what is it in comparison to how it has been over the years?
So I just was looking at our numbers. Our December numbers were the highest we've ever seen. March was a peak month. It softened during the summer months. Again, there was CERB and other money out there that people could access. And again, we've certainly, with our partners that are providing food, like soup kitchens and shelters, they certainly have had to pivot and change their programming so that they could serve people in a different way, because you can't bring groups of people together into a building. You know, you got to keep everyone safe. And even in December, we had to change in that we had 3 drive-in hamper pickups. So people that were pre-approved, we packed the hamper, and basically they came to the food bank and picked up their hamper and never left their car. Again, trying to keep everybody safe during this time.
That must be a lot of logistics and, sanitary work on your side, right? So there must have been a lot of new hires and stuff for that, and there's lots of changes at your end.
Yes, and again, I think most social service agencies had to do a lot of pivoting to support people who are vulnerable, because again, you have to keep, not only continue to provide the food to people, but you also need to make sure your volunteers and staff and your clients and any other guests that are coming to your facility are kept safe. So a lot of work is being done by a lot of agencies to continue to provide those very important services in the community. And it's, a work that not only my colleagues that are on the line now, but other community partners are doing to try to keep, continue to provide services and keep everyone safe.
Thank you, Marjorie. I just needed to know, how much quantum of, numbers in terms of how many hampers do you have the numbers as compared to what was it pre-COVID? So
last Christmas or festive season, the 2020 was over 26,000, and it was closer to 20,000 the year before in December. And that's just the hamper programs. Does not include meals and snacks and other services that are happening in the community and that we're providing food to.
Okay, thanks for that. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Pastor Kolawole.
Okay.
You can turn on your mic. I just needed to know, what is the capacity of your church? And with COVID, I'm sure that, church services might not be really happening, or I don't know how you're managing. So just let me hear about, what changes you had to make because of COVID, how many people come to you with food issues, and as you started explaining, you can complete that part,
okay.
About how you support people.
Yeah. Prior to COVID, we were not actually having too much challenge with people asking for food. But at the onset of COVID, probably because of massive layoff and massive reduction of hours of people working, we discovered that around us, in the immediate community around us, it seems 7 out of every Canadian seems to be having a form of challenge.
Wow.
So, and we noticed instantly, even from our own immediate community, which is the church environment and the Macaulay area where we served. So what we did immediately was to now brainstorm on how we can actually get involved and assist the community. So we started to look for resources. Initially, we had a center. We call it Rhema Multicultural Center. It was actually for social services, but because of COVID and pandemic, we streamlined the operations into food accessibility. So what we did was that we went into partnership with the Canadian government. We started with what is called Food Surplus Program of the Canadian government. So we applied to be made a center. So what happened was that every 2-3 days, the federal government supplies truckload of frozen food, chicken, turkey, fries, frozen. So the next thing we did was that we needed to increase our capacity for storage. So we had to look for a way to procure a warehouse and got other spaces where we take delivery. But what we did mostly was that we made sure that whatever we get from the federal government goes out within 24 hours to the people that needs them. Well, we discovered that a lot of challenge, particularly among the low income group, among singles, for example, families that are led by single mothers with children, we discovered they had serious food challenges. And we discovered families that are single home, adult single home. We noticed that by the time they pay their house rent, they actually had very little to buy food on. And we also discovered a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental problem because people needed to access food. So we concentrated all our resources on making food available. So that year, we also started what we call Rhema Food Bank. We get help from Edmonton Food Bank, where we made a center so that we distribute to our own immediate community. Then, but that is ready to eat food. But for the food rescue program, it's for frozen food, fish, meat, fries, and all shrimps. And then we also had a Rhema Multicultural Center where we also distribute ready to eat food. Between December and last week, we had attended to up to 3,500 families in Edmonton alone. Yes. And what was amazing is this: for the first time in my life, I see people collecting food and shedding tears, saying, is this possible? Is this possible? I saw faces of hopelessness. People thought it was hopeless. So when they come, they access food, because what we did it more than what is normally done around. What we did was that the resources we got from the government, we approached the government to allow us to tailor those resources to the cultural affiliations of people around us. So the government allowed us. So in buying the food, we made allowance for African type of meal, for Caucasian type of meal, for other societies. So because we discovered people that went to other food banks.
That is very, very kind of you. I mean, that's culturally sensitive.
Yes. Huh? So people that went to other food bank prior, they waste most of the food because they find it difficult to eat most of the food. But when you come to us, you tell us what you want. If it is African, we give you African food. I saw a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of joy on the faces of family.
That's amazing, actually.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's really important. I find that even like with, I'm from the Indian community. So we are so used to our spices. So, even if you try to eat some of the food, you feel so sad that you don't have any spices in it. There are a lot of food that, we all enjoy, common food, but then on a daily basis, when we are used to rice and lentils, you can't eat a sandwich. It's so hard for me to do that, right? So it's just like that, when you're used to jollof rice, you cannot eat a sandwich. Being sensitive to different cultural groups is really amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. And I just also wanted to ask one more question of all of you, this will come to everyone, about the culture, about the mental health of these people? Like, is there any work that the church is doing?
For us, what
Yeah,
we
like
did was that,
counseling,
yeah,
or do you do something like that?
yeah, it's not about food alone. So when they come, we try to interact with them, because just as I said earlier, food insecurity means a lot. It has many children. Let me put it that way. Where there's food insecurity, you see unhappiness at home. You see husband and wife quarreling. You see a lot of mental challenges. Why? Because, for example, someone that lost his job, instead of going out to look for a job, spend a lot of time looking for facilities and programs in the city to get food, it becomes more sad. And we noticed a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. People felt frustrated because of the changes in economic situation. So what we did was that when they come to access food, as we interact with them, if they want some form of counseling, we counsel. Then we open up some opportunity for development for them. Some of the program, we try to reorientate them on employment status. We engage them that, okay, what is going on? We have so many online activity going on. So we also evolve a retraining program, so that instead of just coming for food every time, we can retrain you, because we noticed that there's a shift since last year. The shift is towards online stuff. So we are retraining people to take advantage of online opportunities. So, and that has actually worked. And most of the people we retrain, most of them are independent, they are secure now, but they are also inviting more people to come and pick food, and at the same time take advantage of what we are doing. Because we discovered, we noticed that since last year March till now, there has been a surge in mental illness, such as depression, mood change.
Because we have another 10 minutes left. I'm so sorry I have to cut you off. I have to go quickly to Kris and Marjorie to chat about, how people talk about their mental insecurity. I mean, mental health issues when they come to you.
Excuse me, one thing before you go to Kris. I noticed something strange that most people did not notice. Do you know students are also having a serious problem with food insecurity? Most foreign students that came to Alberta, who could not go back because of COVID, they could not access food from their country. They lack a lot of money for food. So they are actually 50% of the people we serve now. Students of U of A, Macquarie University, and some other. Yes.
That's and many of them are from Africa, or from which countries?
Some Africa, some from Philippines, and we have some Chinese and some few other places. Yeah.
Oh, how sad. Very sad. Really sad to see students who've come here and they're spending so much money and they can't afford food. It's just the saddest. Kris, let me take the mic to you now. Would you be able to talk to us a little bit about how you support somebody who says that, I'm really struggling?
Yeah, I mean, we have a variety of supports in place. And you got to remember, like, a lot of the folks we serve are struggling with homelessness as well as food insecurity. So there's multiple layers here to work through. And I think COVID has really, a lot of people haven't thought about this, but it has really hit our homeless population hard. All the places that they used to access, just even for safe space during the day, have been closed off to them. From libraries to malls to restaurants and stuff have all been shut off from them. So when we talk about isolating, they have nowhere to isolate. So food insecurity is just a piece of the overall picture. So the stress has really, we've seen a real increase in just a rise in anxiety and stress amongst the homeless population, feeling very lost. They don't know where to go. And that's why a lot of the spaces that have been opened up as a 24/7 site, because there is nowhere for them to go. And so you compound that by putting 300 people into a space for 24 hours a day together, who are all struggling with different levels of mental illness, addiction. And it does cause a huge stress even within the space. A lot of anxiety, we see a lot of behavior, a lot of acting out, violence has increased. And these all stem from the homelessness and the food insecurity. And so we have counselors on site. We're working closely with an organization called Bent Arrow to provide Indigenous cultural programming, housing workers. We're trying to make sure the food is there. So we are supplying, there is support, but we're still working with a population that lives in a crisis from one moment to the next. And
even
so
for normal people like us, it's so hard not to be socially interacting with our friends, and it's just tough.
Yeah.
Though we don't have food insecurity issues, it's just difficult even for us, like, who are regular normal people with a job, and we don't have any major issues. But I can't imagine how difficult it must be.
It is, and you throw on top of it the potential of catching COVID is just another stress for them to be worried about. Is where do I sleep? Where do I eat? Where do I get clean clothes? Well, if I go there, there's a lot of people, and I might get COVID there and get sick and end up in the hospital. And so it's just another stress to put on our population.
Have you been seeing a lot of people with these kind of issues, and you've been giving out a lot of counseling help and stuff like that? How many numbers would you say?
Well, like I said, we sleep 300 people a night at the convention center. We sleep another 120 across the other side of the river, and they're there 24 hours a day. I think the last number I saw is we've served about 5,000 people through the convention center space since it opened, and that's 5,000 separate people. So it's tough to track all the numbers because of just the population we work with. So yeah, it's intensified the crisis of the homeless population in Edmonton.
So is it mostly homeless people only, or is it people who recently lost their homes because they couldn't pay their mortgages, and because they lost their jobs? Is it single moms, or like what is the gender approximate?
It's probably a 70 to 30% split between males and females.
Okay.
In our shelters, you won't see kids. We don't have kids in those shelters. Traditionally, Win House and places like that would support a mother. The last stat I saw, and it wasn't that long ago, is about 80 people a month are dropping into homelessness in Edmonton.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. If you look at it over a year, that's another 1,000 people into homelessness.
That is so sad. It's so sad to hear. Thanks, Kris, for giving us those numbers. It just shows us the gravity of our situation right now. Let me go to Marjorie. And over all these years that you've been with the food bank, like you said, this was the most difficult year. So, do you find that it's also educated people which are joining the ranks of the homeless, and they are coming to you for all these services? And how is their mental state? And are you able to help them?
Well, I think that the reality is that anyone can lose a job, anyone can go through a family breakup, anyone can have health challenges or mental health challenges. And so there's always some complex underlying challenges that people are coming to us and looking for help. And like my colleagues, I think moving forward, in addition to the physical safety, making sure people are housed and have adequate food, I think that mental health will be a challenge for a lot of people. Stresses for families that, like you've indicated, Mary, a family that doesn't have a lot of issues still is facing the fear of COVID and the struggles that go with that. So I think that you're going to see moving forward after maybe we feel a little bit more safety around COVID issues, you're still going to see some of these concerns happening in our community. And I think that, again, there won't be a magic wand that's waved and there's going to be a lot more jobs or anything like that. I think, unfortunately, we're all going to have to keep working together in our community to find solutions to housing, to keep working together to make sure people have access to food and people have access to mental health and any other needs that they have, because the economy is not going to just bounce back when maybe more people are vaccinated in the fall. So it is a complex issue that we're all going to keep having to work very hard on.
Yeah, I'm really so grateful to you, Marjorie, because you seem to support a lot of other organizations. I'm really grateful for the work you do in our community. I just have one question to everybody, like, because we are closing towards 30 minutes, so I need to quickly wrap up. So I just wanted to say that, you all are doing some amazing work in the community, and there's just no way that, we could have survived without each of your organizations. So really, really grateful for the work you do in our communities. I remember going and serving Christmas lunch at the Hope Mission last year. And it was not 2019 because, with COVID, we didn't get to really do that. But before that, it was the most heartwarming and beautiful experience in my life, when I served some people and they were so happy getting the food that I was serving them. And that is just something that is undescribable. So I'm sure that there is lots of people who are really grateful to all of you for the services that you guys are providing. However, do you see that this situation that we are in is going to last for a long time? What kind of things do you think the government can do to make it easy for you all to support our community better? And maybe low-cost housing? I'm not sure. Just, throw out your ideas, because you guys have been on the field for so long, much more than me about what is it on the ground and how the government can help you better.
Well, certainly, Mary, this is a complex issue, and what would help one family may not be as helpful for another family. In some situations, people need jobs. Some people need affordable housing. Again, some people may need some kind of education or skill building because the job they did before is no longer viable. And so again, if these issues were easy, I think we would have solved them. And so I think when we come out of COVID, we're going to have to all be more creative in how we respond. And I think governments do need to look at things like how they can participate in making sure that people are housed, and how can we make sure that income security rates are adequate, that people can pay their rent and buy food and other fixed costs. So there is room at the table for all of us to come together, including government, and seeing how we can find some creative solutions to help people move them out of poverty wherever possible.
Thank you. That's so true. I know for sure that the Canadian economy hasn't pushed the pay scales as much as the economy is growing so much, but we are not pushing our pay scales higher. So probably there is an opportunity for the government to participate in how we can do that, or a universal basic income or something. God knows what it is, but we really need to help people to survive better, and we are not doing a good job with that. And so I really want to thank you all for the work you all are doing together, collaboratively supporting each other to make as many Edmontonians food secure. Thank you so much for the work you do in the community.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Keep well.